All right, everyone, welcome back to GDQ HOTFIX. We are here for the last part of our 25th anniversary celebration of Super Metroid. We are giving everybody in the SRL the ultimatum that they need to ready up now, or else they're not going to make it in. So they have just a few moments, and then we're going to get this started. We have two commentators here to help us out for this race. It's going to be Andrew and Kip. How are you both doing?
Doing great, thank you. Andrew, how are you, man?
I'm very excited for this. We have a great showcase. These four runners are very, very good, and they all have very close PBs. So I fully expect a fantastic race from all four of them.
Yeah, it's going to be
and
great to close out with the 80%, which is the primary thing that everybody runs.
Yeah, and just to cover, the four racers that we're going to feature on our channel are going to be A Real Cutie, Shiny Zenny, Sloters, and Feral. We have plenty of other people racing on SRL, so feel free to check out their streams on the SRL. We have pretty much everybody ready. We're just waiting for the final confirmation from our production side, and then we're going to get started. So, what do you guys think prediction-wise?
Oh man, I think the two people who have been grinding the most of any percent are, recently at least, have been A Real Cutie and Shiny Zenny. So I kind of expect them to take the lead. Sloters and Feral are both very, very experienced and they're very strong. However, they have not been grinding it as much recently. So the top two runners, you might want to take a look out for sure.
All right, so I'm going to drop from the race, and that's going to be the cue for the people on SRL that we are going to get started. And there we go. Countdown has started. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
And just like that, what are your predictions, Kip? How are you feeling this race?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I agree with you that Cutie and Zenny have definitely been, working on it the most lately and doing the most runs. But of the four featured, Sloters and Feral are definitely battle-tested racers. They've been in a lot of races. They handle pressure very well. The only thing I'm kind of interested to see, I believe Sloters will probably go new route, but Sloters is actually exceptional at both routes, as is Cutie actually. But Sloters goes back and forth, on his races, so it just kind of depends. But I think we're going to see all four of them have a good showing today.
Oh, of course. I for one, I am pretty certain they all want to be competitive, and they're all very competitive people. I expect them fully to all go to Fantoon first. So this will be, I hope, and that's what I expect, and that's what I hope, and I hope that's the case because that way we'll have a great showing. We'll always know who's in the lead, and we'll see the lead change back and forth several times. I'm very certain of that.
Yeah, so real quick, we talk about this a lot with races. I'm sure we have some people out there in the chat that are a little less experienced with some of the Super Metroid speedrunning. So real briefly, let's talk about the difference between old route and new route. We expect all four of the runners that you see on the screen right now to run new route, which is a boss order that starts with Fantoon, then it goes to Ridley, then Kraid, then Dragon. A little bit different than the sort of quote-unquote intended order of Kraid, Fantoon, Dragon, Ridley. It will cost them, having to skip Plasma Beam, but at the same time, it should cut down on some of the routing and allow for a faster run if they can put all the tricks together. The one thing about new route is it's only faster if you can actually execute what you need to. It's a pretty brutal run for any percent.
Oh yeah, it's not uncommon for these. We have community races every Friday night, and most of the higher tier runners always do this route, the Fantoon first route, and it's a brutal slugfest. A lot of runners, I'm saying upwards of 30 to 40% forfeit rates, just because of everyone's trying their best to compete here and make sure they get the fastest time. So. All of these runners, however, very, very high tier skilled players. I expect great showcasing from all of them. As we're starting off and just heading down into Get Morph Ball, we noticed a couple different changes. I commented on this before in the 100% race. But Sloter's not a fan of Moonfall. I believe he's the only one who will not be using Moonfall throughout this race. So he'll take a little bit of a gap in the beginning here, as Feral and Zenny and Cutie all take a little bit of a lead from him.
Yeah, he'll take a little bit of a time loss at the beginning, but he'll get to keep his morals intact.
Of course.
Just kidding, of course. The Moonfall is actually, in the world of Super Metroid speedrunning, a newer discovery. It's still a couple years old at this point, but or almost a couple years old, but a pretty big piece of tech that was discovered and then has changed, some things that people do. I'm sure other people have pointed out already that it does allow you to fall with uncapped fall speed if you do it correctly, but it changes the way you have to fight some of the bosses because of the nature of Moonwalk, which when you hold a charge shot will make you walk backwards slowly instead of turning around. So it kind of takes a while to adjust to that if people want to do it.
Certainly. You'll notice a little bit of a lead here. We have Zenny out in front, Feral right behind, Cutie following up quickly, and Sloter's right behind, mainly due to that not using Moonfall. Again, these early game rooms are easily some of the hardest rooms to optimize, and the mistakes you make here can add up very quickly. Even though it's the beginning of the run, most of these runners are very experienced doing these rooms. That small little mistake that Sloter's did just there cost him about 1.5 seconds compared to Zenny, who's out of the climb at 4:23, a fantastic time. He's looking for a great time at bombs here. Everyone else not too far behind.
Yeah, and especially considering that it's the 25th anniversary today of the game, and I'm sure I can speak for Andrew and other people in our community. We absolutely love it. It's a fantastic game, easy to spend a lot of time with, and very rewarding. But I will say this: we would encourage anybody out there that's interested in learning the game to join the community and get started. But I will warn you, if you're going to start learning rooms in the order that you go in the game, be prepared to be frustrated when you get to the climb, because it's actually one of the hardest rooms in the game, and it's right near the beginning.
Oh yeah, I'll just echo that statement. If you want to do that, just try to get past some of the early game rooms, because the first 5 or 6 minutes it can be rough and be discouraging. Just try to get past those, and you'll get better at them as you go on. These runners finishing off Bomb Teresa with a barrage of 5 shots and a few missiles, that way to make sure they avoid part of the cutscene in this fight to lose a couple seconds, and they're all through it with ease.
Yeah, and here we come across kind of I guess in some ways, the first sequence break, the Alcatraz escape. I think the game sort of intends for you to use bombs over on the right, but these runners are going to do a wall jump and then morph in the air to get through that hole on the left, and now they'll head to Terminator to grab the first E.
Oh yes, and I think we talked about this during some of the GT Classic and low percent runs, but they'll be wanting to keep their health at full here and missile all of the pirates. Although it's about 1 second slower than just running through all the pirates and taking the damage, when you're going to Phantoon first, you'll be fighting Phantoon with extremely minimal items, only about 3 missile tanks and a 1 E tank. So conservation of health is extremely important, because the Phantoon fight is notorious for ending runs. It's very difficult with this minimal item set.
That is true, and even though it's not typical to take a ton of damage from this point forward, there are definitely rooms where if you make a small mistake, you can take a pretty decent amount of damage. I think the hoppers in Green Hills, for example, if you misplay it, do about 20 damage, and then most people do at least 1, if not 2 deboosts in Hellway coming up. So as Andrew pointed out, you want to maintain as much health as possible, because you don't want to have a super risky Phantoon fight.
Exactly, and even now, 7 minutes in, we're still an item cutscene just away from the lead to the last place person currently, so very, very close. And I think we talked about this in some of the other runs, but again, there are some RNG sources, some factors, and coming up, especially fighting Phantoon, some of those patterns that Phantoon will give you can make the difference very, very easily.
Most definitely, and a lot of the stuff that we're seeing right now, obviously there's some nuance, and people will do better or worse by a little bit, but probably the first super tough room that we're going to see them come to here shortly is the Red Tower climb. And the reason it's tough is just because even if you make a small mistake, you can kind of lose a good bit of time. And then pretty shortly after that is the first sort of choke point of the run. the moat. Pretty much the pace that you have is completely meaningless in this route until you get over the moat, which requires a CWJ or a horizontal bomb jump. So I'm sure even already the runners are kind of thinking about that and getting prepared mentally for it.
It's funny you say that your pace doesn't matter until this trick, because honestly, this route is like that phrase just works in so many different rooms of this route. Like you can say it's not a pace until you kill Fantoon. It's not a pace until you get Lava Spark. It's not a pace until you kill Dragon. There are so many different ways to lose an incredible amount of time in this route. Like Kip was saying earlier, this is a considerably faster route than going down Red Tower, this room they're in right now, to Kraid first. However, the mistakes you make in this route are generally more costly in time and in health than the mistakes you make in a different route.
I totally agree. And sometimes it's like some of the things that it requires you to do is not even necessarily crazy hard. It's just that if you happen to mess up, you get completely penalized in a way that you don't in the old route, at least in some of the rooms. So looks like we got power bombs for Sloters, Feral, and Zinni. Real Cutie going to be grabbing those. That's the only power bomb pack of the run. And now we're heading up to, here in a few rooms, we're going to be to the moat. Let's see what happens.
Oh yes, all runners still very close. Moat can definitely be a decider. They'll be doing, Kip mentioned, one of two strategies to try to cross this moat, which is generally intended for you to have grapple to get across. They can either do what's called a CWJ or continuous wall jump. I believe all these runners will be attempting that. The idea here is they'll be lining up on an exact amount by bopping against that door, and then they will attempt to do a 1-frame jump into a 2-frame wall jump off of the middle pedestal. That is a CWJ. Looks like neither runner so far got the setup for it. So we'll see if our last one here, Cutie, a real Cutie, can get it. But Zinni showing off. Zinni, Feral, and Sloters all showing off now the horizontal bomb jump. Oh, and Sloters just manages to barely miss the bomb jump, so he'll have to follow way down to the moat and take a pretty significant time loss. And same with Cutie.
Yeah, Zinni and Feral did a really nice job there of getting over first try. Now Sloters is over very nice, but this is kind of what we're talking about in terms of the route being very, it penalizes you heavily for a mistake. Falling in the water at the moat, even one time, can cost you potentially 10 seconds, which is a pretty good amount. But looks like Cutie's going to try again. He's setting up another CWJ attempt and gets it. So now all 4 runners are across, and they're getting ready to head over to fight Fantoon.
And this fight, as we're talking about, is incredibly brutal. The one thing you'll notice is that both of our runners who are currently in the fight, Zinni and Feral, have exactly 14 missiles. The idea here is they want to have less than full. So you'll see Zinni pick up a missile drop and then shoot it off immediately. The idea is to have less than full so that when Zinni shoots all these flames right there, all of those drops are hopefully missile drops. That way you can use them for the second round.
Zinni's showing off a very nice air Doppler there. The point of doing an air Doppler, if you can pull it off, is to be able to basically keep Fantoon on the screen. So very nice job there.
A fantastic 2-round from Zinni there. And we'll see a part of the problem that Zinni ran into here, not problem, but his unfortunate luck led him to get a slow pattern, which is 24 seconds slower than a fast, or around 18 seconds slower than the patterns that Sloters here got. Sloters got a fast and mid pattern, giving him 18 seconds to catch up on Zinni, and the lead changes just like that. Not the lead, but the amount of lead that he had, excuse me.
Yeah, I believe Sloters earlier today, he was victorious in his 100% race against Topsy Turv. I think he got pretty far behind, actually, at Fantoon, but then managed to grind his way back to take the lead late in the run. So Sloters is definitely somebody to keep an eye out on. I'm confident he's going to have a good run. But it looks like all of our runners are now through Fantoon without issue. Good to see that. And we're going to head up to the attic. Can you explain just a little bit here? This wreck ship shaft room, Andrew, I think is actually interesting. In this route, you don't have high jump boots or speed booster, and I feel like it's a little bit easier to maneuver, but then the attic is a good bit tough here.
Yeah, it's the wreck ship in this route without the items you have typically in other routes is kind of an enigma, right? I think it's very, very difficult to fight Fantoon with this route. You have to be much more experienced and ready to go for whatever Fantoon can give you. But these other rooms, I'm not like I think I may have spoken about this earlier. It just feels so odd to go through these rooms with some of the more advanced items because it feels like the platforms are too short, and having high jump and speed booster makes you jump too high, and it feels more accustomed to having these items that these players do now, just because of the way the platforms are aligned. But all of these players getting through Attic successfully without any problem is usually a pretty difficult room. Unfortunately, Sloater's here. They're going up in a room here called Bowling, where Shiny Zenny is right now. They need to take a minimum of 2 spike hits, which do 60 damage each. So Sloater's, unfortunately, has to get some health drops in order to be able to cross the bowling room successfully. And there's no real way around that. That doesn't lose a lot of time. So you'll see him just farming these enemies right before bowling and just hoping for health drops. And all he's really getting is ammo, unfortunately. But he does manage to get just enough to be able to cross. So he'll hopefully be fine, as long as he only takes 2 hits here.
Yeah, I didn't see exactly what happened, but I assume, again, just based on experience, I assume he probably got hit by one of the pancakes, which I believe do like 80 damage or something. It's a really high amount when you only have the power suit on. And this is another just small example of, in that room in old route, you would have Varia suit and even more health. So just even a small mistake, one small bad jump or somewhere can really cost you, or if you get the bad drops in this run too. I was going to mention that they're already using ammo conservation strats to try to protect their supers.
Can I just interrupt you for one split second there? Shiny Zenny, I'm well aware, he has a setup for the reverse CWJ. While it doesn't save a lot of time, it is an extremely cool strat to see. I'm glad he pulled it off there, but please continue.
Yeah, that's a super swag strat. You don't see that very often. But I was just going to point out that this run is really heavy on the RNG, especially with the ammo drops and stuff. And even right now, the runners are using conservation strats to sort of manage their power bomb and super counts to kind of minimize the farming later. So, just at any given moment, you can kind of run into a bad situation that might cost you a lot of time here in this route.
Definitely. And just taking a quick look at the ammo and health counts of these runners, the main thing that's most important here are the supers. And Sloater's, although he had unfortunate luck with his health entering bowling, has plenty of supers. Likely will not have to spend much more time farming or lose time due to not farming. So something to look out for, and that's maybe Sloater's way back into this race.
Yeah, so let's talk a bit about why the route is what it is, because they killed Fantoon, but what you're going to notice is they have basically 2 choices at this juncture. If they want to go fast, they can either head to Kraid or head to Ridley. The reason people go to Norfair first and then immediately head to Ridley instead of doing Kraid second is because if you wait to do Kraid until third, there's 2 hidden benefits. Number 1, you'll have Speed Booster, which makes a pretty big difference in the long hallway prior to Kraid. And then secondly, Mini Kraid at the end of that Kraid hallway drops typically 4 supers each time you kill him. So you get 8 total, 4 on the way in, 4 on the way out. And that's a good refill before Meridia. So that's going to be a more efficient and faster method. Although there are actually some benefits to doing Kraid second if you're in a scenario where you want to play it safe, because you can get an extra E-Tank and various suit, but I don't expect either of any of these 4 players to do that.
Oh, some of them might. I know some of them might have been talking about it earlier, about potentially getting a 4th tank. But I think a lot of this mentality of the race setting is that all these runners know where their opponents are. So if you're in the lead, you might feel comfortable taking a safety, but if you're behind, you're going to be really pressured to not take safeties because you want to get ahead of the other runners, clearly. And so we'll see if Zenny, if he still holds the lead after Ridley, will potentially get Ridley's E-Tank.
Yeah, you're right. That's my favorite thing about racing Super Metroid is that, you're not operating in a blind environment where you're just doing a run by yourself. You actually can tell, how far ahead or behind you are, and that kind of changes, some of the risk you're willing to take. So it's kind of neat to watch how people adjust over the course of a run. Unfortunately, Farrell there accidentally, I believe, jumped over that energy tank on the way in. So he's having to grab it on the way out. That won't cost too much time, maybe about a second. But he's good to go now, and he's going to exit. And it looks like Zenny is already over to the Ice Beam.
He's been executing well, just been playing very solidly. He's not giving up an inch of ground here yet. Again, that may potentially change as his ammo count is not exactly what you'd like it to be right here. So him either farming for a few extra sessions, he might feel he has the room to do that, or he might just go ahead and hope he doesn't hope he gets the drops he needs later.
Nice ice escape there by Shiny Zenny, freezing those platform enemies to then run and jump across and get a mock ball to get under that gate. Also heading into Ice Beam, I saw Cutie and a few of the other runners do a nice D-boost off of the Sova there. So a lot of cool tech. The stuff in this game, you might hear somebody talk about something saving, oh, this saves 20 frames or whatever, but those frames over the course of a long run definitely add up.
Oh, for sure. Like this strategy, particularly that Zenny is doing right here, most runners in the Rising Tide room will just roll underneath everything, especially with Gravity Suit. Nothing does a whole lot of damage, and you don't really get slowed down by the lava rising, which is why I call it Rising Tide room. But just going above there and taking some careful, calculated damage boosts saves you just a little bit of time here and there, and we see Real Cutie doing the exact same strat.
Yeah, Zenny went for an incredibly tough trick in Bubble Mountain there. He went for the right side strat, utilizing a wall jump to basically, it's like a really tight delayed wall jump. The good news is even if you miss it, there's a good backup for freezing one of the waivers and then jumping up there. So it's cool to watch everybody use the Spazer and Ice Beam. In old route, you wouldn't have this, you wouldn't have Spazer or Ice Beam at this juncture. So it actually makes part of the Upper North Fair cleanup strats a good bit different in this route.
Definitely. I think it's been said before. I mean, it bears repeating. There are so many different ways to go through each room in Super Metroid. It's really interesting to see each runner their personal choices to get through each room. And Sloters, this is kind of a hard point to see, just because it's so minor and it led to a mistake that cost him quite a bit of time, significant. Probably about 2-3 seconds, but all of these runners jumped into this long hallway before Speed Booster in order to correct the door transition, in order save just a few frames here and there. Unfortunately, Sloters happened to jump with a little bit too much speed and landed too far away from the door, did not get enough run speed in order to run past those crumble blocks. So he had to fall down the crumble blocks and then jump across the other ones. And it just goes to show, yes, you can do all these strategies that are a little bit faster and save you a lot of time, but just slightly off, and you're going to be having a very bad exchange of losing several seconds when you're trying to save a couple fractions of a second.
Yeah, good point. And Andrew, if you don't mind, Shiny Zenny and then everybody right behind is going to be coming up on one of the really important strats of this run. And technically, there are two options, and both can definitely work. I'd like to give a shout out to the most recent 4180% Overfiend, who actually got a 41 without doing the Lava Spark. But can you explain what Lava Spark is and what Zenny's about to attempt to do here?
Certainly. Whenever you charge a Shine Spark, you have 180 frames, 3 seconds to activate that Shine Spark. What Shiny Zenny here is activate the Shine Spark as he's falling off the platform there in order to get the most amount of frames possible remaining on his counter, to then deboost off of a flame that an enemy shoots in that lava room, and then using that deboost, go through that lava room as quickly as possible and Shine Spark at a extremely narrow window here. Like you saw at Real Cutie, Shine Spark just a little bit too far to the left there, and that's 100 health gone for a failed strat. So just like that, losing a third of his health for absolutely nothing. That's one of the terrible outcomes of missing this strategy. We'll see Feral misses it, Sloters also misses it, so unfortunately only Zenny gets the Lava Spark. All the rest of the runners will have to do a gravity jump instead. Feral, thankfully, didn't even get the spark itself, so he will be saving the most health out of these three runners who did not do the spark.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Zenny had an absolutely gorgeous Lava Spark there, and in the meantime, he just finished the worst room in the game. You'll see the rest of the runners attempt that. That name lives up, or I guess the room lives up to its name in this category or in this route, because if you mess up the worst room in the game, more often than not, if you don't have an exceptional backup in place, you're probably going to lose your whole run. They're going to try to use basically the iframes of the power bomb to get a delayed wall jump. to get past the pirates. Let's watch.
You'll notice Cutie here. He specifically, oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, his first jump was a little low, and then he got hit by the Namahe. That's very unfortunate. He's got to be perfect from this point forward.
Yeah, there are no room for mistakes. He cannot get hit by any other enemy just like that. And unfortunately, Real Cutie is going to be taking a death here.
The good news is he did save at the top of Lower Norfair. There was some discussion about that prior. Everybody kind of wants to be able to finish an official SRL run here, so good to see him have that save and be able to try again. Zenny moving through Lower Norfair without much issue here. His health is looking pretty good. I bet after this last Metal Pirate, his supers will also be in good shape. Yeah, he's looking pretty good, and he's heading to Ridley, while Sloters and Feral are getting closer to Wasteland here.
I'd like to point out just on the screen of Sloters and Feral, they both just did a Shine Spark directly, like they didn't actually go anywhere. It just went directly against a wall. You might be wondering why they did that Shine Spark. Those Shine Spark echoes that come off of Samus when she crashes into a wall or ends up crashing somewhere against her Shine Spark, those echoes actually damage enemies and do an incredible amount of damage. That killed the 2 Key Hunters in that room we call Key Hunter Staircase, and reduced a significant amount of lag from the 2 power bombs both of our players laid there, saving them almost a second and a half in cumulative lag from those 2 power bombs. So it may have looked like those Shine Sparks didn't go anywhere, didn't do anything, but they did a lot.
Okay, Zenny, I'm confident that he'll pull it back together here, but he made a pretty costly mistake at the beginning of this Ridley fight. He was going for X-Factor strats, and he got 2, but as he got the second one, he actually jumped a little too high, and Ridley grabbed him, which did, I think if I was watching correctly, he got hit by the grab, and then I think by the tail afterwards as well, which took a good bit of damage. Ridley in this particular route can be really tough, because you got to hit him with a grand total of what would be 60 charge shots, but I think, you basically have some of your ammo take the place of that, and supers are very valuable since they do double damage, so this fight can take a while. Plus Ridley's a huge troll. Let's hope that he can pull this together here.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that if any one of these runners just had to kill Ridley and not worry about how long it took them, they could all do this with this amount of energy in these items without any issue whatsoever. The huge problem that comes with this fight isn't just the fact that you have to survive. You have to survive and kill Ridley very quickly. So, thankfully, Zenny manages to get past Ridley without any other danger of dying and without being health bombed, which health bomb is what I say when a runner on a Samus is below 30 health. When she goes below 30 health, she enters the health bomb routine, which means that all the drops that spawn will be health instead of ammo. And they want ammo here because they're gonna. Looks like Zenny's picking up the E-Tank in order to make it out of Lower Norfair. That's a great call. He was very low on health there.
Yeah, which in a way, that's exactly what I was thinking. It makes the fact that he didn't get health bombed even more valuable, because he was able to get some ammo and then basically get a free refill. And, I won't go into every specific here. I actually pick up the Ridley tank a good bit in my 80% runs, but even though it is a little slower, you don't lose the entire amount of time if you know how to counterbalance it, because with full health and an extra tank, you can actually run some more aggressive strats, not having to worry about getting hit by some of the key hunters and such. So it is possible for him to sort of run a little bit more aggressively here.
It looks like all 3 of the runners who have killed Ridley so far are just planning on taking the 4th tank. There may have been a gentleman's agreement to just take it and just say, you know what, we'll all 4 take it, and that way there won't be any crazy risky strategies that they'll have to employ. So thankfully for them, this will make finishing the rest of the run, I don't want to say more or less guaranteed, but more or less guaranteed. It's very hard to die with this much health, hopefully.
Yeah, and assuming that they do grab the Batwoon tank as well, again, it's not impossible to die from this point forward, but getting out of Lower Norfair is definitely what I would call probably the highest risk place in terms of losing your run to a death. So I think they'll be just.
I'd like to direct your attention to the bottom right screen where Feral laid a powerbomb in a very specific point to break the bottom 3 blocks of that powerbomb statue, leaving the last block intact. All of our runners have done this so far, but Feral was one you just saw doing it. He left those blocks intact because there's a way to clip through that platform, take a damage boost from the Deskiga in a reliable fashion, such that damage boost, the iframes from it, will last long enough to get you a speed boost to speed boost through those blocks. It's an incredible strat called the Wasteland Escape, and it's very difficult to do. It's always great to see people pull it off.
Definitely. And at the moment, take a look at the bottom left. Sloters is moving through a room that claims a lot of runs. This is the Three Musketeers. He doesn't necessarily have to worry so much about his health right now because he took the E-Tank, but he had a gorgeous damageless
that was
manipulation.
Absolutely beautiful. Of note here is that everyone seems to have pretty good ammo and health. Health is clearly not a problem because all four runners got the Ridley E-Tank, but the ammo is especially important because we talked about this. Kip said, you know, you go to Kraid after Ridley because you want to get that refill from Kraid and from Mini Kraid. For the supers, mainly for the bot wound fight, but also for Dragon coming up after that as well. The great thing is that they all have plenty of ammo. Not going to be too worried about the ammo drops from Mini Kraid or Kraid.
Yeah, all runners moving along nicely. Cutie here going through the Three Musketeers, doing some swag deboost strats here because he definitely doesn't have to worry about his health after getting that Ridley tank refill. Zenny doing a great job of timing his jump to maintain his full speed momentum. That's one of my favorite things about this game is the fact that, you know, you enter new rooms all the time, but you maintain your momentum, and so that means you can come up with all kinds of cool strats depending on how you want to enter a room. But he'll now fight Kraid and try to do the Kraid quick kill by getting 1,000 damage into Kraid without letting him stand up.
Very well executed there from Zenny. The main idea there is to shoot two missiles in a fast pattern. The first missile makes Kraid open his mouth, the second missile lands in his mouth, and then the first of the three supers he fires at specific timing to allow that super to lock Kraid's mouth in place, allowing him to put two more supers in, which will do a total of 1,000 damage, which is Kraid's health, killing him before he stands up.
Most definitely. It looks like Sloters was able to handle it as well. Pharaoh getting ready for his. And I know it's been talked about before, but just a quick reminder for everybody. Picking up the Varia suit is actually mandatory in the run. Even though gravity does offer, more physical, protection or defense against a lot of the creature's attacks, the Varia suit, the primary function for it in this particular run will be to half the damage of the Mother Brain Rainbow Beam. Without it, that Rainbow Beam would do 600 damage, requiring way more E-Tanks. So the Varia suit is actually the fastest thing you can do to be able to get through Mother Brain.
Oh, certainly. It'd be hard pressed to find the E-Tanks you need in a quick manner. All of our runners have fantastic ammo heading into Meridia. Not a problem. They'll be able to fight Bot Wound with ease and not have to rely on Bot Wound's drops to head over to Dragon. Real Cutie also finishing Kraid off with no problem. All four runners getting Kraid quick kill.
Okay, and Zenny here, though, this part is kind of similar between old route and new route. I mean, there are a few slight differences, but Meridia, on the whole, has a lot of similarities through Dragon between the two routes. What you're going to see here is Zenny is coming up on the Botwing fight. He's going to try to utilize an opening X Factor that'll have 4 particles that do 300 damage each. Then he's going to try to use supers, which also do 300 damage each. He's going to need 6 supers to finish the fight off if he does the X Factor correctly. That'll do the requisite 3,000 damage. Let's see how he does.
Yeah, it looks like... Ooh, Zenny just barely managing to finish off Botwound before he escapes into that hole. Looks like Zenny does an audio cue for that X Factor. You notice Sloters in the bottom left. He ran all the way across to the right side of the room, then back to the left. That's just a timing cue that he uses instead of an audio cue. There are 2 different ways to do it. Nice to see both of them displayed here. And we'll see how Feral does in Botwound. While Shiny Zenny is setting up and does get the Botwound E-Tank and setting up for...
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
ahead.
Andrew, but look at Sloters there. Sloters, your boy, just decided to skip the Botwound E-Tank to catch up a little bit, and he is actually in the lead at the moment, blazing back to take the lead from Zenny. So we're basically only a couple seconds apart, but both of them getting a nice full half. Sorry to interrupt you, but that was very high.
No, of course. This is what I'm talking about. This race scenario. Sloters knows he's behind, knows he's comfortable with 3 E-tanks. He's taking the risk. He's saying, I don't need that 4th E-tank. I can do just fine without it. And he pulls the lead from Zenny right out from under him.
Definitely. It will make... Sloters just took a damage from one of those turrets, which he did not intend to take. I don't think it'll matter if he does everything correctly, but you just never know. So hopefully it doesn't cost him. But he got a little bit lucky being able to have full health after Botwoon. And now he's going to try to utilize that to be able to skip that.
Oh, and this is Dragon at her finest. The Sloters is going for a 3-spark strategy here. Using 3 sparks, and that relies on getting a goop phase. So, yeah.
Ooh, no.
Yeah, unfortunately, Sloters had a little bit of bad luck here, both with the Dragon fight and looking to convert his blue suit into a spike suit, allowing him to run with a Shine Spark charged. It looks like Shiny Zenny manages to get the trick. Keep an eye on the top right screen. It looks like there's nothing special about Samus, but he'll do this and he'll activate a spark, and you never saw it coming. So
Very
unfortunately,
nice.
yeah, Sloters attempted to go for that trick, but unfortunately was 1 frame off from getting it correctly. So unfortunately, you have to go through Coliseum the slow way, just jumping across these platforms. And a fantastic execution of a 2-spark strategy from Feral there. Also getting the spike suit. Fantastic Dragon fight. Could not have gone better.
Yeah, and at this point, it's just movement tech all the way to G4, and then hopefully some good luck for all of the runners in terms of Metroid drops. I think we've talked about this pretty extensively, but another huge difference between old and new route is typically old route will show up to Torian with way more supers, whereas new route will usually not have hardly any at all because you don't get a chance to farm a ton between Dragon and getting to G4. And by the time you're done with Dragon, you're usually either on empty or very low anyway. So we'll see how they have to manage their farming and sort of the drops along the way.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like Shiny Zenny, I think he did actually farm the Zebos exiting Meridia heading to this Brinstar Red Tower area. However, he did not get any supers. So yeah, instead opts to kill these 2 Kakataks in this room in order to give him the supers he needs, because entering Turian with just 0 supers is not what you want to do. And just like that, Sloters is back. He's coming up. This ammo could be the tell here. If Zenny has to do some slower strategies in the Metroid rooms, or has to potentially, even if the worst case scenario, reload a Metroid room because of the drops, Sloters is right on his tail and has way more than enough ammo to do some very unsafe strategies in the Metroid rooms.
Yeah, Sloters is around 7 seconds behind at the moment, but in a little bit better shape with his ammo, which does not guarantee anything, but I'm sure Andrew will probably agree with me on this one. If the Metroids give you the drops that you need, it can actually make you go a lot faster because you can run more aggressive, faster strats against the Metroids. But if they continue to not give you what you need and you have to do a lot of grouping in just about every room, you're kind of forced into it, but it can definitely cost you a good bit of time.
Oh, certainly. You can lose upwards of 4 or 5 seconds potentially, and that's the lead right there. Coming up, Feral almost to Golden 4 as well, while Shiny Zenny and Sloters are waiting on their Golden 4 cutscenes. Feral has fantastic energy, fantastic ammo. He's also looking solid to complete the game, while a Real Cutie heading up to Crateria, head past the ship, also to Golden 4, looking golden to complete the game just as well.
Yeah, shoutouts to Cutie, especially after taking that death, which can always be a little unnerving, but he loaded up his save, and since then, he's had a very clean run. I mean, he's not really that far behind, and Farrell's doing good as well. I love G4. I don't know about you, Andrew, but I love G4 because, especially in any category where you're on a sick pace, you just have to sit there and think about it.
Oh, it's great.
Solid minute.
I want to go on about that because I completely agree. This waiting room cutscene for Golden 4 is a very tense moment, especially when you're on pace in a PB or in a race setting, because these rooms coming up that Zenny is about to do are some of the hardest rooms to execute perfectly in the entire run, if not the hardest rooms to execute perfectly in the entire run. So having this 1 minute required waiting period just builds that tension and brings it to a boiling point. As you see, grouping strats coming out from Zenny and Sloters here. Both Zenny not getting drops. Well, okay, there we go. Gets bailed out by room 2, so he'll be probably very good to go coming into room 3 here. And Sloters also getting fantastic drops. Don't expect that to slow him down at all. But Shiny Zenny getting grabbed by a Metroid, that's not what you want to see. And Sloters whiffing a super. Oh, I don't know. His super count's a little bit low. He could. And Zenny pulling out the incredibly risky strats here. Pays for it. And he pays for it. Poor Zenny. He knew how close this race was. He wanted to go for a very fast strategy. He went through without grouping the last 3 Metroid rooms, looking to save just a couple seconds. And he has to pay for it. With 20 and 7 means he's going to have to missile all of the doors to Mother Brain's room before he can refill and finish the game. That's going to cost him an incredible amount of time. And Sloters pulls in the lead just like that. Feral in his second.
You know, I admire his moxie, but I have to say, from a strategic point of view, entering the last Metroid room with 7 supers, and then choosing to individually super everyone is really an aggressive, dangerous play. You know, sure, on average, maybe you're going to get what you need, but I think we've all had runs where, you know, they just refuse to cooperate. So that is very unfortunate. That is going to be a heavy, heavy time penalty based on drops alone.
Yeah, that's incredibly brutal. That's just, I mean, that's really unfortunate because that's, I mean, again, that is a choice to go for that particular risky strategy, but to have it backfire on you that catastrophically without getting a single super drop from those Metroids, that's super unlucky. And we'll see Sloters here does not have to go back for the refill, can just head straight to Mother Brain. And we'll see if Feral gets this Metroid skip. He can definitely catch up and pass Zenny right here, and he gets it just fine. So the race for second continues. Sloters looking pretty good for first. There are potentially ways that he can lose this lead, but he's looking pretty strong right now.
Yeah, I mentioned at the very beginning of this this race that, you know, this is one of my favorite things about running Super Metroid. You know, the difference between going for a PB versus being in a competitive environment where things are a little bit different. You know, Sloters is honestly one of the most battle-tested runners we have across pretty much every category. And I think that's being shown here. Despite some of the bad things that have happened to him, he's still managed to kind of keep his head and, you know, basically just hang in there because you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And coming up on Sloters' screen here, we have the Mother Brain 2 fight. This will be 60 shots. Pretty tough. And again, he did not pick up the 4th E-Tank that all of our other 3 runners have. So he has much less room for error, like those onion rings just there. Had he gotten hit by all 4 of them, he would not have, I can't quite tell the hell, I do not think he would have been dead, but it would have been extremely detrimental for him right here. And he's I think he's feeling the pressure. This fight has to go right for him.
Yeah, you're 100% right. He has more pressure on him, obviously, than the others because only the 3 tanks. But if he can get to the catch-up phase without getting hit by the first catch-up, it's not guaranteed for him to get by, but he'll only have, I think, 15 or 14 shots left after that, and that phase is typically more comfortable than the previous one. So let's see. He's now in the catch-up phase. Let's see if he can deliver.
Yeah, exactly. This is almost home free for him. It's a very low risk, but that risk is death if he gets hit by his catch-up. All 4 runners in our Mother Brain 2 fight right now! And Real Cutie takes a full set of onion rings to the face. Thankfully, he got that extra E-Tank, so he'll be completely fine, but that's a lot of damage right there coming out.
Yeah, in my opinion, the onion rings are probably the most dangerous thing that Mother Brain does because you're more likely to get hit by them than the catch-up, and if you take the full damage, it's 80.
And Sloters has finished the Mother Brain 2 fight and will be entering the Phase 3 Mother Brain fight well ahead of anyone else. So, barring catastrophic mistakes, this is his race to lose.
Yeah, Sloters is potentially, unless something really bad happens, he's about to go 2-0 in his races today. So congrats to him. He's had a phenomenal performance today. But if you look at it, look at the screen, ladies and gentlemen, what a great way to celebrate the 25th anniversary. We got 4 amazing runners all on Mother Brain 2 at the same time. And it's been an excellent, excellent day. Thank you guys for watching. And thanks to everybody out there who helped to put on this event and for everybody who ran. It's been super fun.
Yeah, 100% agree. Thank you all for coming and celebrating my favorite game. And I know a lot of yours a lot of the viewers, a lot of the chat, a lot of the participants, runners, organizers' favorite game. It's a lot of fun. If you want to hang out and play with us on Super Metroid, just head on over to wiki.supermetroid.run. That'll give you a lot of great places to get started.
Okay, one thing you saw earlier today, in I think a GT Classic and in 100%, was a stand-up glitch, but you can't do that in this category. You don't have enough E-tanks, and even if you did, you'd gain a little bit of time with your beam combo, but without the plasma beam, you don't get nearly as much time saved. So they just get to chill there for a little bit before getting mentally prepared to do the final escape sequence.
Oh yeah, and this last fight, this is a pretty difficult fight to actually optimize, but Sloters does the Mother Range 3 fight a fantastic justice and executes it flawlessly without missing a single shot, I believe. So very well done. He'll be heading out up to the ship to escape the exploding planet once and for all.
Yeah, ironically, I actually think that fight is a little bit easier in low percent where you don't have the high jump boots. Having those high jump boots can make it a little bit tricky with your angle shots, but Sloters handled it very well, and he's going to head out of here. He does not have the spring ball, so he can't do his favorite blue bomber strat here, but he's got a few rooms left, and he'll make it to the surface. I can guarantee you that Sloters will not save the animals here.
Absolutely not.
I don't think any of these guys will, probably.
No, I am positive that Sloters and Feral will not, and I do not believe that Zenny or Cutie will either. There may be a last man out gets the lights, but I doubt it. This is a pretty good escape time from Sloters as well. He's executing very well in these rooms, so...
Yeah, he's trucking through here. Amazing. All four runners only a few rooms apart, all of them on the escape sequence at the same time. And this escape sequence only lasts, I think, like about a minute, maybe 10 minutes to 15, something in that ballpark. But GG to Sloters. Hey, Andrew, bring us...
Oh yeah, congrats to Sloters finishing with a time of 44 minutes, 48 seconds. Super huge congrats. Well done, winning the race against Topsy, a very tough opponent, and 100%. Starting off our celebratory Super Metroid 25th anniversary stream. Shiny Zenny jumping over the ship and heading back into the parlor. Okay, he's just... Okay, alright, I see what's happening here. And Shiny Zenny finishing up. Well, alright. I'm sure what he's doing here. Shiny Zenny going for the double fake out.
Oh, no, Zenny, please don't do this. I do need to give a quick shout out. Technically speaking, the winner of the actual SRL race was Krauser, one of the runners that's not being featured right now, an old school runner who's recently come back and is an exceptional runner. I believe he finished with a low 44, like a 44.13 or something. But Sloters finishes in first of the people on the screen. And we got several other people that are running. I think there's like 20 or 30 some people in this race. So we'll see what happens here as we continue.
Yeah, this is easily the most people I've seen in a Super Metroid race on a Tuesday night. So really, really cool to see all the community come out to celebrate such a wonderful game. Cutie actually taking third place over Zenny because Zenny wanted to have a good time and just enjoy moonwalking and saving the animals.
All right, so we're actually going to cut in a little bit here. Congratulations to everybody that won, or that participated, and to Krauser for winning, for Sloters for winning amongst our featured streamers, but we're actually going to do a quick sign-off, just as a reminder. The next broadcast is the Sprint on the 26th at 8 p.m., and instead of taking too long finishing up the show, we're just going to send you at somebody who's still racing. So go cheer them on in chat. We're just going to host them real quick and give them a bunch of energy while they finish up the race. Okay, guys?